start, please.
Mike, Trayvon Diggs, did he come out of the game with the shoulder injury, and what would his status be for today in practice?
Trayvon, yes, came out of the game Sunday with a shoulder. He will try to do a little more. He worked with the rehab group yesterday, so we may try to work him into individual and then go from there. Is the plan.
Do you have a sense yet for whether he'll be available on Sunday, or too early to tell?
I mean, with him being able to work the individual will obviously give us an indication of the direction that we're going. So his work yesterday, everybody felt good about it, so we need to take the next step today.
How about with Tyron? What will he be able to do for you today?
He's working in the rehab group today.
Do you have any no practice, no play kind of rules, or is everything kind of gray when it comes to that?
Well, I wouldn't say it's gray. I think you have to look at the individual. You have to look at the injury. You have to look at, everything involved. I think experienced players obviously can perform with less preparation. So I mean that's really the baseline of my thinking going into those situations. I think the type of injury is also a factor. I think it's like any formula that you have for any decision. You have to weigh all the variables, and and every one of them's a little different.
DeMarcus Lawrence back today?
Yes.
DeMarcus Lawrence?
Yes, DeMarcus is back, yes.
The health issues you have in the secondary, how valuable is it to have Brandon Carr, a guy who plays safety in corner for you?
And it's great to have Brandon Carr. Obviously has a tremendous amount of experience playing both corner and safety. So it's just really an acclimation period that we were going through with Brandon. So he got a lot of work yesterday in practice.
DeMarcus Lawrence is back, but will he work in practice, or will he be with the trainers because he had a knee coming out of the game? Will he practice fully?
He will start in the rehab group, and then we'll go from there. Just because we didn't see him yesterday, so he will start that way and hopefully get into the individual.
Mike, how much has John Fossil kind of rubbed off on you as a sort of go-for-it guy in special teams, or were you already kind of wired that way?
Well, I think like any time you're building a staff, and John, was definitely one of the first hires. You're building a staff. As a head coach, you're putting in a new program. I've spent a tremendous amount of time with John. There's a philosophy that you put together for the offense, defense, and special teams. The things you work on during training camp. Obviously, we didn't have the off-season program, so we really focused in on a couple of key points on special teams, and being aggressive and getting the confidence level up of the special teams was a primary focus. So, the plays that have been called in week 1 and week 2 are all things that we worked on. Whether they were, called in a game and we had to check out of them, or called in a game and we kept them on. So, it's good planning. I think he's an exceptional teacher. His positive energy is infectious throughout the whole football team. I think sometimes people forget that your special team coach, coaches everybody in the room. He spends as much time with all your players, more so than any other coach. So, I mean, if you think about it, he stands in front of the whole football team, except maybe for the quarterbacks and sometimes the O&D linemen. So it's an important position. It's something personally, and for my second time around focus, I've spent a lot more time with, and definitely want it to be a big part of our success here.
It seems guys in your profession would prefer the term aggressive over gambling. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't believe in gambling. My father was a firefighter back in Pittsburgh. Also owned a bar. So we had 2 poker machines in the bar, and so a lot of people throw away a lot of money in those poker machines. So I actually I'm not a gambler. So I think I look at it from a different viewpoint. But I definitely would like to think I'm aggressive.
You're here away when you studied things and looked at what other people were doing and tendencies and came at it a little bit differently. Did it make you more aggressive in your approach, do you say? Or this is such a small sample size for 2 games and you're down by 20 points. But, I mean, is there a difference? Do you look at it a little differently than you did when you were at Green Bay?
I think I'm less aggressive today than I was in the earlier years in Green Bay. I'm not. I called a fake field goal on 4th and 24 once, and the damn thing worked, and we scored. So, I think against the Bears, but you do things with a preparation, based behind it, and that's something I've always done. I think like anything in life, the more experience that you have, the more aware you become, the more in tune you become, and frankly, at the end of the day, it's about keeping the football in the players' hands, making sure they have the tools, the confidence, and more so than anything, the emotional and mental understanding to go get it done. And it's fun when it happens. So I think really the answer's in your question. It's a small sample size. Everything you do, from a decision standpoint, it's done, with good intent. There's preparation. There's a lot that goes into those decisions. So, yeah, I think the longer you're in this league, you're more calculated, and I just think that goes with your experience.
Coach Mike, either here or in Dallas in Green Bay, when you want to be aggressive, do you have a coach that says, "Hey, Coach, you sure you want to do this?" Just to make sure that this is what you want to do at 4th and 24 or 4th and 4 and things of that nature?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the 4th and 24 call was actually a field position decision, and the thing increased and ended up being a touchdown. So, and that's football, and that's the way that goes. And no different than Sunday's game against the Falcons. You're talking about your situations. A play before, sometimes 2 plays before. I mean, that's how I've always called the offense. I mean, when you call a play, if it's 1st and 10, you're ready for 2nd and long or 2nd and medium or 2nd and short. I mean, that's how it works, and no different with John. I mean, the second punt was what we targeted because we wanted to look at the corners on the gunners, the first punt, and then the 9 stop was there, and it was the right call. The execution wasn't good enough. The second call, 4th and 5, it was there was an indicator on the punt return group for the Falcons. They came into it late. It was a borderline call. That's the decision making during a play. So, and I think the result reflected that. So at the end of the day, I think it's convenient criticism if people clap, or I hope they clap when it works, but then when it doesn't work, you get criticized, and I understand that. I mean, that's part of answering these questions and part of how you're viewed in the position that I hold. But I could just promise everybody, especially our fans, there's a lot that goes into those decisions.
Mike, you've played up in Seattle several times. You know how hard it can be to function offensively and what a big part of it the crowd is. What things are you able to eliminate in terms of your preparation now, given that you'll be playing in an empty stadium?
Well, I mean, you just look at the environment that they've created up there. It's tremendous. I mean, it's definitely one of the best home field advantages in football. And I mean, you really got to credit John Snyder and Pete Carroll for in the organization for what they've done. They've established the 12th man. So to be able to go up there and play 11-on-11 is definitely something that I'm looking forward to, because I mean hopefully this will be the only time it ever happens. So, but at the end of the day, it's still football. We've had 2 experiences. We've had an experience in L.A. Being on the field, it was really quiet. I mean, really quiet. Just a lot different than our home experience. So, don't really know where theirs is going to come in. we have a scouting report, based on what we think it's going to be. But we're playing in a different environment, and I think it's part of what the whole league is going through right now. Definitely, it favors the experienced quarterback. They have an extremely experienced quarterback, but it is a home game. But I think with Dak's experience playing on the road, we feel very confident going up there.
Coach, do you see this as a measuring stick game? Just 3 games in, but is it a measuring stick game for you guys?
I think I think that's a fair outlook. I'm looking at it as we need to take a big step and go win a game against an excellent opponent that's playing extremely well on offense. I mean, you can't say enough of what they've done offensively the first 2 games. So, and I've been very impressed with their special teams, and their defense is taking on a different face than we've seen in the past with their pressure and the addition of Jamal Adams. So, I mean, that's really the focus that I have in the tightness of it. And frankly, once we get off the field today, we'll be talking about the Dallas Cowboys the rest of the way, because we need to improve. We need to do the things that just the basic functions of a football game better, and that'll be the key to our victory as we finish this preparation.
Mike, when you go up and play a quarterback like Russell Wilson, is there any sense that clearly you need to score, but maybe you don't want to score too quickly because you want to keep Russell off the field as much as possible?
Well, I mean, I think you're referring at the end of the game, correct? I mean, because we want to score as fast as we can, as many times as we can. I mean, as far as the start of the game and throughout the game. But I mean, when you get down in the fourth quarter, that's part of the game management. I think we have an excellent game to come off of with the Atlanta Falcons, because there's no way we wanted to put Matt Ryan back on that field and give him an opportunity. So, just the way CeeDee Lamb stayed in bounds and handed the ball to the official, and in the way Dak handled the clock there at the end, hopefully we're in that same situation.
How important is the time of possession battle to you?
How important? Excuse me. What?
Time of possession battle.
Well, time possession hasn't been in our favor the last 2 weeks, so I think the factors of that are there's a couple things that play into that. So our third down. Our production on defense needs to improve. We need to take care of the ball, number one. That'll always be number one. We're -2 in the turnover ratio so far this year. So, yeah, you definitely want to win the time of possession, because it's you're keeping your defense off the field. They're fresher, and hopefully you're keeping them in a pass rush situation. Instead of having to play 50-50 on every down. So when the down and distance gets tilted towards the defense, obviously you have a better chance to play productive, successful defense.
Are mental errors a statistic that you guys track?
Absolutely, yes.
How many mental errors on defense last week?
I'm not going to talk about that publicly, but I'll just say it's way too many as a football team. We actually break ours down. We have MAs, which are missed assignments, and then we have mental errors that are a different variation of the mental challenge of the game.
With a number of mental errors on defense, do you believe it might be in the defense's best interest to scale back some of the things that it's done so far and maybe simplify things a bit, just kind of dial that back? That might be in the best interest of the defense.
I think that's a great question, and I think that's right in, I think it's page 32 of the Head Coach 101 manual, that when your team has too many mental errors, that you cut the volume back. It's definitely part of the conversations you have as a staff, and it's definitely something that we talked about. But I think like everything we've talked about so far in the area of decision making, you got to look at the whole. You got to look at the whole picture. You got to look at the why it's happening, when it happened, who it is, So and that is really part of why coaches work the hours that they do, because there's a lot of discussion, a lot of conversation that goes into every decision on what defense you put in, what offensive scheme you put in, and what you're doing on special teams.
Mike, among other things that you track, when you have a workforce staff like Zeke Elliott, as the season progresses, are you measuring not only his touches and amount of plays, but also he's so involved in pass protection, and it seems like sometimes the biggest blows he takes in the game are either delivering or absorbing blows, picking up a blitzing backer or safety.
Yeah, definitely. Play time is looked at. You know, it's not only just the number of plays they play in the game, but it's also the number of touches. It's also the number of plays that they accumulate during the week in practice. So you know we have a week workload breakdown of each player. So we have a meeting every Wednesday, Thursday. We do it on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday with the strength and conditioning staff and the training staff. And it's clearly on the workload capacity. We have targets that we look to hit each and every day. And so yes, it's definitely something we stay on top of for all of our players.
John Fossil seems very involved in the ball security turnover circuit period of practice. Notice a lot of boxing gloves being used there, where members of your coaching staff are trying to jar the ball loose. The usage of boxing gloves, is that something that Fossil brought with him, and how did it come to be where Fossil is so hands-on when it came to ball security?
Well, I think like anything with your staff, you have job description, job responsibility, and then John is our team fundamental coordinator. So it's something that him and I have spent a ton of time on. His staff, obviously with Matt and Eric, have put a tremendous amount of time into that. So, all the drills that we do, have been laid out. And I'm kind of laughing because, we didn't have the off-season program. So a lot of our drill demonstration was actually John, Matt, and Eric doing it out on the field. So, and the players got a charge out of it. But, now that we've been able to do the drills with our players, we're teaching off of the drills we did in training camp. But, I think it's like anything. When you put together your coaching staff, you lay out job responsibilities, and like I said earlier, John and I spend a tremendous amount of time together on game management, all these types of situations, because he's tied. He's really tied into that. I've always done it that way, even in the past in Green Bay, as far as how the game operates on game day. Because frankly, when I was calling the game on offense, you really rely on your special teams coach and others for game management type situations. So, but he is the coordinator of our team fundamentals and does a tremendous job both teaching and the application of the drill work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.